Well, the story of this truck just got a lot more interesting, and I'm really hoping I did not just end up stuck with this thing in my yard for an extended period of time. Long story short, I have found out that this truck has been broke down in Central Oregon and floating around different repair companies' yards for the better part of a year now. That's one fun thing. And two, I know that in the last video I told you that in the next video, which is this video, that we would be towing this over to the auction so it could get sold. But we can't do that because I also just found out that the guy never actually set anything up with the auction. So I don't know if he thought I could just show up to an auction with a random truck and drop it off and they'd say, thanks for the truck, we'll sell it and send someone money, or how he thought that was going to work. But either way, I now can't take this to the auction because he's not all set up with them to sell the truck. And we also now have a job to go do with the Zacklift where we got to go lift up a deck extension for a lowboy trailer and either load it on the lowboy or put it in the lowboy. I'm not sure which they need to do, but they got a load to go do tomorrow. First thing tomorrow morning, their forklift broke down that they would normally do that with, so they need the Zacklift to come help out. So we got to get this backed over here out of the way, unhooked where it's hopefully not going to stay for very long, and then take the Zacklift out and go do Zacklift things where we lift heavy stuff up in the air. That's what we're doing. Down Sesame, and hopefully I remember to set the brakes. I did. Alright, we're going to pull the forks and the risers out of there, fold this up, and then go do some Zacklifting. But before we get going, I gotta get something to eat because I'm going to miss dinner on this trip, which makes this the perfect time for the sponsor of today's video. Now this is the point where you were supposed to see a Factor ad, but unfortunately we had to pull that out of this video. And I want to make clear it's not anything to do with Factor themselves. They've been great to work with. If you've watched this channel for a while, you know that we've done Factor ads in the past. They have a good product. They're a solid company. What they claim is what they do. Very happy with all of that. I mean, in fact, we actually have Factor in our fridge right now. Why? Because we actually eat the stuff. This isn't just for the ads. The reason we didn't cancel the deal. Let me clarify that. The brand agency we were working with canceled the deal when we called them out after finding out a few hours ago that they were not very forthcoming and upfront and transparent with the process and who all was involved in this. Now, a lot of big companies don't work with individual creators like me directly. Actually, almost all of the companies you do see me work with, though, I work with directly. But a lot of big companies, they use brand agencies, which are basically brokers. And they go to these brand agencies and say, here's our budget, find us creators, here's our what we want in the ads. You have the creators do the ads up to the requirements, submit them to us, we approve them, ad goes live. Of course, the brand agency gets a percentage of what the company pays for the ad. Now, that's all fine and great when it's upstanding companies that are honest and upfront about how the process works, and like I said, who all is involved in it. The issue with this whole social media marketing world is that it's a very new and young industry in all reality, and there's a lot of people in it who have really no business running a business. There's a lot of 20-year-olds with a computer sitting on their couch pretending to be a big deal to brands and to creators and taking the money out of the middle. Now, likewise, there's a lot of creators on social media who are very new to business as well. Myself, I was in business for a very long time before getting into all of this kind of by accident, but having been in business for so long, I was able to treat this like a business and have experience with business deals and how they work. Now, unfortunately, that's not the case for most people in the social media world. This is kind of their first foray into business, and therefore they're very easily taken advantage of. Now, in this particular case, we're working with a brand agency who has led us on to believe that they are the direct contact to Factor and the ones who then go and find the creators to do the ads for Factor. It's not the case. Factor, in fact, has a much bigger brand agency who they use to find them the creators, and somehow this other brand agency got the contract with them to put out the ads, but they don't have any channels of their own. Now, when I was digging through some emails this morning, I spotted an attachment you could open that goes into another attachment that has a link from that. And by jumping through all these rabbit holes, and I don't think they meant to send us this, but I was able to find the actual contract between them and the real brand agency that Factor is using to find creators. And the funny thing was, the brand agency that we were working with, who we thought was the contact to Factor, was listed in there as the publisher of the videos, like the creator. Hold on, my phone's ringing. Anyway, yeah, so they were listed as the publisher of the videos and the ones putting out the ads. So I don't know if the actual brand agency knew that this brand agency wasn't the creator, because that's sure is how they were listed. And also, by doing the numbers in there, I was able to see what Factor's actually paying the first brand agency, who of course takes a percentage cut. That's how the brokering the deals work. They get a percentage out of it. And the second brand agency that we were working with was taking an even bigger cut out of the amount that already had a cut taken out of it by the first brand agency. So I called them out on that and said, hey, what's going on here? You guys never mentioned any of this to us. Never mentioned that there was someone else involved. Never mentioned that this was going to be chopped up here, chopped up here, chopped up here. And like I said, we've done Factor ads in the past and we didn't renew. Most companies will sign on for a package of sponsorships. And like this here was a package for a certain number. When we did it before, it was a package for a certain number of ads all at once. Not all at once, but like spread out for however long. But you negotiate a package deal. So when we did it before, we didn't renew and we had the option to, but we didn't renew. And it wasn't, again, anything to do with Factor. That was fine. It was, we didn't feel they were willing to pay what we thought we were worth as an advertiser for them. Now, on the other end, I'm now thinking that they were wondering why we were wanting so much, because they're paying this big, huge amount up here. And by the time all these people are jumping in the middle and taking stuff out of it, we're only getting this little amount down here. I thought Factor was being really cheap, and Factor thought I was being really expensive, when that wasn't the case. They were paying a lot of money for ads, and I was doing them for way too cheap. There was just so many people in between taking it all out that they were making all the money. Which again is fine. The broker in the middle should get a percentage for the work they do. But we should know who's all involved in there and getting percentages. Because like I said, the second brand agency that we were working with was taking a much bigger cut than the first one, and I asked them, how can you justify, on top of the fact that you never told us they existed, and we thought the ad was only paying this much from Factor when in all reality it was paying this much, how can you justify taking a bigger chunk of the money than the brand agency that actually has the deal and the contract with the manufacturer? That makes no sense. Now here real quick, I know it seems like I'm just bitching about everything, but what I'm doing is just kind of pulling down the curtain and showing you guys the other side of this whole YouTube world that most creators try to pretend doesn't exist. So anyway, brand agency that we were working with tried to assure us that, oh no, it's all fine. It only says that we're the publisher because that's just what it happened to say on the contract. It doesn't really mean that. Well, if it's in a contract, that's what it really means. And they know that we're not the owners of the channel, owners of the videos, any of that stuff. And it's like, well, the contract says that you are. So I don't agree to that. And that's the contract with them and the other company. And like I said, we're able to see their contract with the other company. We're able to see their rates with the other company. And I said, okay, well, we agreed to do this with you getting 20% of what the ad pays, and then we get the rest. Well, here's what Factor's actually paying. And here's what we're getting. If you took 20% of that and we get the rest, you actually owe us this much money, not this much money. And that is in the contract. So if you want to continue this, you owe us this much. And of course they didn't like that, but also in the end of that, it was written into the contract that we agreed to do the ads for this price, but it said that that price was 20% less the total amount of the ad, which it wasn't. Now you see why this is all getting really fishy and why I started hammering on these guys so bad to get the actual story out of all this? So anyway, they assured me that no, the other branded agency knows that they're not the owner of this content and the publisher of it and the creators and all that stuff. But I kind of feel like they were trying to act like they're a multi-channel network where they own all these other channels and so it really is their stuff and therefore they are the publisher, but not the case. I mean, I could be wrong, but it's how it feels. In my opinion, of course. Anyway, I tell them I will run the ad, which by the way, is scheduled to go live in a video that's posting Thursday, which right now, as I'm filming this, is tomorrow morning. You guys are going to see this Thursday. Well, if you watch it when it comes out, Thursday morning. This video has been uploaded and ready to go. This is a job that happened weeks ago. And it's just been waiting now to get posted, which now that it's time to get posted, I'm pulling back on the whole thing. And I tell them the only way I will run the ad is if that other brand agency contacts me in writing by email and lets me know that yes, they are well aware that you, brand agency number 2, are not the publisher of these videos, are not the owner of the content, do not have any ownership, stake, or control in my channel, and that you're just double brokering the deal off of them. I said, if you get me that in writing so that I know that they're aware of how this is really working and everybody's on the same page, I'll go ahead and I'll run the ads that I signed the contract to run. Fun fact, after that, brand agency number 2 decided that they didn't want any part of this anymore. They didn't want to work with us anymore. They wanted to just call this whole deal done and everybody walk away from it and pretend it never happened. Isn't that convenient? So like I said in the beginning, this is no fault of Factor. I'd be happy to continue working with Factor and doing the ads for them. Like I said, we've got their food in our fridge right now, not even at a time that we were going to be doing an ad, because we actually eat the stuff. Brand agency number 1, no fault of theirs either, because I don't think they knew how it went downstream from there. I think they thought they were working with a publisher of videos, even though I'm the publisher of the videos. So either way, I said, okay, that's fine. You want to walk away from this deal? Walk away from it. I won't post the ad. And that's why you guys are seeing this instead, which really sucks. Because it was a good ad. I mean, it fit perfectly into the video. It was a very natural integration, which is the way an ad should be if it's actually genuine. And I was actually kind of proud of how it came out. I thought it was a really good one. Apparently, brand agency number 2 sent it to Factor for approval, which I don't think happened because they don't actually have direct contact with Factor. And Factor loved it, according to them. But I think it was actually brand agency number 1 loved it. So brand agency number 1 and Factor, if either of you guys end up seeing this and you want to run Factor ads on my channel, as long as everything's all transparent, everyone knows what's going on with it, which I truly do think that it was from the top down through the first half of this thing, would be happy to keep doing it. But unfortunately, another not so forthcoming brand agency kind of got in the middle of this one and really screwed the whole thing up. Now, to other creators out there, please be very careful about the brand agencies you work with. There are a lot of really bad ones out there. A lot of them will also use, like, they like to show their roster of who they work with to like validate themselves, and they'll send a pitch to you. Hey, I'm with such and such brand agency. We work with creators like this, and this. Verify that. If you get one of those from those brand agencies, Theron with Edison Motors up in Canada, super cool dudes. He actually texted me a couple weeks ago. Said, hey, this brand agency reached out. I want to know how it was to work with them. And I go, Theron, how the f*** would I know? And he goes, well, because you're one of the creators they work with and represent, and you do ads with them. No, I don't. Actually, never done such a thing. And then he sent me a screenshot of the message that they sent him pitching Edison Motors to do ads with Edison, with me listed as one of the creators that they work with. Even though I've never done a thing with them ever, and that's not actually that uncommon. I've gotten pitches from brand agencies that have me listed as one of the ones they work with to try to show who all they're working with. And you'll see like, oh, I work with Mr. Beast and this other, and like huge names that you know they don't. So to the good brand agencies out there, because they're not all bad for sure, there's definitely some good ones. Thank you for being a good, upstanding business person and running a legitimate operation. To the bad ones, f*** off. To the creators out there, just be really careful who you're working with. Do your best due diligence on vetting them out and making sure they're honest up front, and ask to see the transparency of who all is involved, from you all the way up to the brand themselves. And in all reality, if there is multiple in there, but you're happy with the price you're getting in the end, and you know how it's being broken down all the way through, and the brand's happy with spending the money they're spending, hey, everybody's getting what they want. That's fine. As long as it's transparent, everybody knows who's involved and how it's broken down. So all that being said, this video is now, unfortunately, no longer sponsored by Factor. I would like it to be, but it's not. However, since this was a job that happened 2 weeks ago and I thought was going to be a sponsored video, I told these guys that I'd come help them out for free. This ended up being a 3-hour round trip job with the heavy wrecker from the time I got started here in the yard to the time I got back and done. Still happy to go help them out for free. I mean, it's not like I'm going to go back and send them an invoice now. I told them I'd help for free. I was very happy to do so. That's exactly what we did. And instead of a big company being the one that's supporting it and covering the cost of it, it's you guys watching these videos, and I really appreciate your support and making that happen. So, all of that being said, let's put the YouTube curtain back up. Let's go hop in the truck and help some people out. All right, we are out of here. If you look on the floor over there, you see I've got all my scan tool stuff out, because earlier today I had multiple check engine lights on the dash, and I don't like that. It was a failed communication between the truck and the transmission, as well as between the truck and the front axle ABS, both at the same time, which is very strange. Luckily, none of those matter as far as driving the truck. It's a friggin' manual transmission, and the front axle ABS is, I didn't even know this truck had front axle ABS. So none of that matters, and besides that, all the lights are off now, so I guess we're fine, and we can go dangle stuff in the air. And I'm gonna get into like more of the story on that truck without like naming names and blasting people here, but probably like when I actually do hopefully tow that truck out of my yard sometime very soon. Check out this heavy hauler right here. Got a push truck in the back, steerable trailers. A little bit bigger than the one we're going to help right now. Alright, we are here. I got a little more of the story. We got to get back over here. We're going to pick this thing up at. So they've got a lowboy that can take deck extensions, get put in the middle of it, kind of like my big trailers that I had. And they need the deck extension for a load that they've got to go pick up tomorrow morning. Now they've got a really big, good forklift over here that is normally what they use to set the deck extension on and off the trailer, and then when you get where you're loading, the crane will normally help lift and set the deck extension in place in the trailer. Wow, that got dark. So they just need to set it on the trailer, but their forklift broke down while they were trying to go load this deck extension up. So they've been fighting all day to try to get the forklift running, which has not been going well, and they're supposed to be out to go pick up the load tomorrow morning and meet the crane. So they called me to get me to come over and load the deck extension for them, since the forklift is not cooperating. Problem is, it's set in kind of a goofy spot, so I got to winch it off of some blocks and kind of drop it on the ground and then spin it sideways the way I need to have it facing the set on their trailer. So that's what we're going to do. So that's it, sitting over there. It's facing this way, we need it facing that way. So I got to drag it out of there. Run the boom out. Luckily it's got big D-rings on it, make it super easy to hook to and pick. There's not airlines or fittings out the back of this, is there?
Nope. No,
that's gonna.
This one, right? Yep. Yeah, everything's inside. Right.
Yeah. Okay, so when I drops off of that, it's not gonna clip anything. Okay. Lock our winches. Take the bulky gloves off to run the little buttons. Alright, I gotta spin it. We need it this way. But first, I have to interrupt this video to let you know that if you're watching this on TikTok, you're watching a fake scam page that is stealing my content off of YouTube and putting it on TikTok to monetize and make money off of. Now, I don't post my videos on TikTok, and despite the fact that we have jumped through absolutely every hoop that TikTok has asked us to verify our correct identity and prove that we are the real us, they continue to side with the scammer page because the scammer page is monetized and making them a bunch of money. Now, if you're watching this video on Facebook and thinking that must be a fake page because it says based in France somewhere, wherever it says that, no, that is my actual legitimate page that I own. It says based in France because I partnered with a media company in France to take my YouTube videos, re-edit them, shorten them down, and reformat them for Facebook. They handle the posting and manage that page for me since I don't have the time, and we have a revenue split between the two. So that one's very legitimate. The crew in France that manages that page, awesome people who do a great job. As far as TikTok goes, TikTok. Alright, now I can lift it. And start grabbing stuff while that extends out. I think I can get away without pulling out my big chains, the super heavy big ones that are up there. Oh, actually, yeah, I totally can. Cool. Well, maybe. Maybe not. Let me look. I'm gonna put a lot of veer angle into it, but too much, I think. Too much. I was hoping I could avoid climbing up and getting the heavy ones out, but I should do it right. that for an extra 6 inches of chain over what we had. So close, yet so far. Story of my life. Oh, that one's still connected. Help if I disconnect it first. Yeah, if you just want to take, that in and hook it to the D-ring.
Jump back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah, Yankum rope instead of the cable. So much nicer to work with.
Did you get your new one, your rollback finished?
Mostly. It's temporary finished.
Oh, okay.
I've got some other changes I'm gonna do to it, make it a little different, but I have to wait for some parts on that. It's actually going to do its first big recovery not tomorrow, next day. A big car over a cliff recovery. Up by Mount Hood. Way off in the woods up there.
Oh, at the guardrail? Is that the one that went through the guardrail?
No, this is you get off the highway and go way out past Timothy Lake and all that, way out into the woods out there on a dirt road in the forest.
I thought there was a car that just went off the cliff up there last week.
You're not supposed to use the underreach as a backstop, but the underreach works great as a backstop to help to swing a little bit. Yeah. All right, I'll pull forward and then you can pull that up behind me and line up where you want it, then I'll back straight up and set it on. That work there? Okay. This is where an integrated unit is handy because I can pick the underreach and the boom exactly the same. And none of that moves. That's the part where we gotta back up very gently. Had to look at both mirrors and see which one was spotting me. Yeah, I can move it this way.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It'll swing some this way anyway. I can actually boom down and get out a little. Looks like we're gonna need. Thumbnail. Take these off. So we can do one in at a time.
Yeah, you're dead perfect.
Okay. Coming down. Toes clear?
Yep. Can't get a perfect ball.
All right. Make sure all these are clear, and then I'll pull forward and put all this away. That way you can chain down and do all that. All right. I'm gonna move it forward. Alright, now we put all those heavy chains back up there. Alright, he is pulling out of the way so that I can back up and get out of here as well. Have to turn the PTO off. And then they've got some more work to do now to get ready for their haul tomorrow. I gotta not run over all this stuff on the ground right here next to me. And then I don't know what I was saying other than that. But either way, we picked up the deck extension and we put it on a trailer. These guys have been fighting the forklift all day, but now they're still not ready to go because they've been fighting the forklift all day instead of getting the trailer ready to go. So now they got to go get the trailer the rest of the way ready to go, but they don't need me for that. So they're good for tomorrow. I'm good to go home. You guys are good for watching. Let's do it again sometime.